Hello, this is Don Hall. This is at Don Hall Works YouTube channel. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I make and how I use these things called roulettes or cylinder seals. They're used to add texture to your work. They're simple to make and you can save a lot of money by not having to buy those expensive ones. This process is not something I invented. In fact, it was invented prior to the invention of writing over 10,000 years ago. This process was used in Mesopotamia and Egypt, often as a seal to denote ownership of a possession. This is a cylinder seal from Mesopotamia used in the 9th century BCE. As you can see, the carved cylinder and the seal impressions in clay. Here is one from Egypt around the same period, carved out of a hard substance like bone or rock. And another one from Mesopotamia. Let's see a couple of ways I make them to add texture to my work. Before I show you how I make these things, let's take a quick peek at how they work. This one was how I made this box here, and it works quite well. I use this one a lot. One of my favorite ones. See how simple that is to create that beautiful texture on a slab. Here's one, a store-bought one I bought that just makes lines. You can go a couple of ways. You can make it little squares or diamonds. Here's one that's a wood pattern that gives you that impression of wood. This one has a meander pattern on it like a Greek urn or something. And finally a one that I printed Modesto Jazz and Arts Festival that I was selling my work at one time, and you can actually, write out things, but if you do this, be sure you put the words in there backwards because they turn out upside down or backwards. So that's how they work. Let's see how I make them. What I've done is I've broken off a piece of clay and I rolled it out into a nice kind of like a cylinder shape. And I usually start out by making a hole down through the middle. If you leave it hollow on the inside, it gives you the opportunity to fire it better because the clay dries more evenly and you don't waste as much clay. Anyway, basically that's all I do right there. Get it relatively smooth, and then I use a whole variety of different things, anything that'll make a texture in it. And if you're going to make an intricate pattern, I recommend that you use a pencil to draw a line first. If I want to make that squiggle there a little deeper, I can use a wider tool. So many of these clay tools are so valuable to do this because you can make a pattern like this that might resemble fish scales or bird feathers or something like that. And you can use mechanical things like a bolt, makes a nice little rectangular depression. The deeper you go, the larger the bump will be on your finished work. Here's a fun little thing. I can do maybe some star-shaped kind of things. So basically that's all I do. I create a pattern or a design on the clay and then let it dry real good and then just throw it in with my bisque fire. That's why you see I have so many. It goes real quick, and you can collect a whole lot in a real hurry, and it'll help you create more creative sort of textures on your work. Now, that's one way to do it. Now, there's another way as well. I'm going to show you that now. This is another technique that I just learned recently from a friend of mine who told me how to do it, and I was just experimenting with it last night to see how it works. It requires a cardboard tube and a hot glue gun. The idea being that you can put a texture on the outside of the cardboard tube, and it does a sort of a different problem, a different thing for your work. Instead of having your work as a raised bump on your outside of your texture, this actually pushes down into the clay. So I did 3 different ones. I did this one. This was my first try. It was pretty crude, but it made a texture. I rolled it this way and then I rolled it this way, and it kind of made an interesting pattern. I'll probably will never use that, but you get the idea. Another one is like this, where I put little dots of wet glue, hot glue on there. It's in sort of a somewhat flower pattern, rolled it out, and it made these flower designs. This is the one I want to try to show you here. I think it came out a little more successful. It's like trees in a forest. It looks like this. I'll show you quickly how I did put this on the cardboard tube. All right, here is the tube that I cut off, and what I do is I let the just sort of abstract, and it somewhat gives the impression of a tree if you got a good imagination. But I'll go all the way around, and then I can roll it out and you can see the forest. I'm going to do one more step to this to show you another thing that you can do with these textures. I'm using green underglaze for this, but you can certainly use, mason stain, or you can mix some iron oxide with some water. There's lots of ways you can do this to get a little bit of a different color in here. Now I take a damp sponge and I wipe the underglaze off the surface, and there you go. That looks a little more like a forest, doesn't it? Well, that's a little bit about using cylinder seals to create fun textures on your work. So have fun with this. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. Comments are always welcome. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Any questions? Thank you.